think about this. What happens when cultures collide under colonialism? Do they stay pure and separate? Or do they create something entirely new? This is where Homi K. Bhabha, one of the most important post-colonial theorists of our time, steps in. Born in 1949 and later serving as the Anne F. Rothenberg Professor at Harvard University, Bhabha reshaped how we think about identity, culture, and power in the aftermath of colonialism. His importance was also recognized when he received the Padma Bhushan in 2012. Pause here and note this down. His key concepts include hybridity, mimicry, ambivalence, and the third space. These terms describe how colonized people adapt and resist colonial authority. Colonialism, Bhabha insists, never achieves complete domination. It is always unsettled by the responses of the colonized. Can you recall his most famous book? Yes, The Location of Culture, along with his edited volume, Nation and Narration, and this was asked in exam. From these works comes his central idea of the third space. The third space is not simply colonizer versus colonized. It is an in-between realm where new meanings, identities, and cultural forms are created. And here's the key, it was also asked in exam. Bhabha describes the productive capacities of this third space as allowing hybrid identities to emerge, resisting colonial domination while opening up new possibilities of expression. Equally significant is his idea of mimicry. Colonized people may imitate the colonizer, but never fully. This creates a slippage on the surface. It seems like submission, but in reality, it subtly undermines colonial authority. Similarly, his notion of ambivalence highlights that colonial power is never stable, it is always divided, derivative, and fractured. The colonized subject too feels ambivalence caught between affirmation of the colonizer's authority and resistance to it. Now pause here, this is another asked in exam. Bhabha redefined the concept of the nation in post-colonial studies. He argued that the nation is not a fixed or unified category, but a site of constant ambivalence. Nations, he says, are always split between contradictory narratives, tradition and modernity, unity and fragmentation. A nation is not once for all established. It is always being narrated and re-narrated. Finally, Bhabha distinguishes between cultural diversity and cultural difference. Diversity assumes culture is stable and pre-given, but difference emerges in the moment of enunciation, the act of speaking, the encounter itself. This happens in the third space, where cultures do not simply coexist, but interact, disrupt, and transform one another. Through hybridity, ambivalence, and cultural difference, Bhabha gives us a powerful vocabulary to describe how colonial power is both enacted and resisted. He reminds us that identity is never pure or fixed, but negotiated and hybrid, especially in a globalized world. So, whenever you hear terms like hybridity or third space, remember they're not just academic jargon. They are tools Bhabha gave us to rethink identity, nation, and culture in post-colonial times. Imagine standing between two worlds, colonizer and colonized, and being asked to copy one while still belonging to the other. This uneasy in-between is what Homi K. Bhabha calls mimicry. It happens when colonized societies imitate the language, manners, or culture of their rulers. But here's the twist, it is never a perfect copy. It is almost the same, but not quite. Pause here and note this down because this phrase often appears in UGC NET exams. For the colonizer, mimicry was meant to produce loyal, reformed subjects. Yet for the colonized, it opened a space of resistance. Why? Because a partial copy highlights difference rather than erases it. It unsettles authority, creates suspicion, and shows that colonial power is never fully secure. Jacques Lacan compared this effect to camouflage, not blending smoothly with the background, but appearing mottled and disruptive. Now let's move to Bhabha's second key idea, the third space. Think of it as a meeting ground where cultures interact, clash, and blend. It's not a pure culture of the colonizer or the colonized. It's a hybrid zone. Bhabha describes it as a disruptive temporality of enunciation, which simply means that identity and culture are spoken and reshaped in the act of contact. Can you recall why this matters? Because the third space destroys the illusion of fixed, pure traditions. Instead, culture is always shifting, always being translated, borrowed, retold, and reimagined. This makes it a site of creativity but also of tension. So, mimicry works as both discipline and resistance. It copies and subverts at the same time. And the third space shows us that culture is never a stable essence but always negotiated. Together, these ideas expose the weakness of colonial authority.